Lock and Load podcast is sponsored by Lock and Load Firearms, Connecticut's #1 rated gun store and pistol permit class on Google. Come check us out, 1573 Meriden Waterbury Turnpike in Southington. Lock and Load Firearms.
Lock and Load podcast is also sponsored by Patriot Wear Holsters, custom-made Kydex holsters locally made in Waterbury, Connecticut. www.patriotwearholster.com and use code LNL podcast for 10% off your purchase. Orders available for shipping or pickup at various locations.
Welcome to Lock and Load podcast. My name is Josh.
And I'm Michelle.
And we are here today to talk to you about Connecticut 2A issues. Today we have a special guest. His name is Derek Reeves.
Hey, how are you doing out there?
Hopefully they're all doing well. They're watching a new podcast that drops every Friday, guys. On YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Alexa, Rumble now too, and Facebook, even though I don't like Facebook. Derek, why don't you give a little background about yourself?
So basically I was a former Marine. I was in 1982, joined right out of high school, did 4 years, got out. Now, when I started really getting into guns was actually right after September 11th, which is kind of interesting because a job I was working shut down because of September 11th, and there was a gun store in Norwalk that was looking for somebody to work there. I had my permit, so I started working there, and that's where I really literally immersed myself into the gun culture.
Okay. Are they still around, that store?
Yes, it's changed hands, but it's still there. Still in the same place. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So you also, well, more than me, run a podcast. What's the name of the podcast? What do you talk about? When does it premiere? How can we see them?
Okay, so it's the Connecticut Gun Bench.
Okay.
It's on YouTube. It's on Rumble. I do use Facebook just to basically bring people over to YouTube as some form, like a form of advertising.
Yeah.
So, and what I really talk about is just gun issues in general across the country and even across the world and what's going on in other countries, because that's just as important.
Yeah.
We're talking about individual freedom, and individual freedom counts for everywhere, not just here in the United States.
All right.
Interesting.
So that's on YouTube and now on Rumble, and then we can find it on Facebook too.
Yes.
We will put a link in the description of this on the platforms that allow us to put links on. So we'll do that. So let's talk about, we normally talk about Connecticut 2A issues, but Derek kind of being a subject expert, intermediate expert. Sure. We'll go with that. More than I am. We're going to talk about some like world issues today with guns. And one of the ones we picked was Chicago, more specifically Illinois. And they had, I guess, a assault weapons ban last year, was it?
Yeah.
And I guess the turnout was low, so
registration.
Yeah,
so they had a registration period for assault weapons, just like we've had SB 1160, and basically they had probably one of the biggest non-compliance ever.
Okay.
So 99.4% of people just did not comply with the registration.
Wow. That was out of the available, I think it was the FIDs, they call it?
FOID cards.
FOID, okay.
So they compared people who had FOID cards to actual registrations, and they came up with 99.4% saying that these people did not comply with the registration period.
Is the registration period completely done now?
Okay, so here's the thing. It ended January 1st.
Okay.
But now the state police are saying, well, if you come in now, we'll still allow you to register without holding you, without any penalties.
Yeah, they're doing amnesty.
Yeah, they're going to extend it out because they're trying to, because the numbers were so low, they're realizing they're in trouble.
0.6% was the math there?
Yeah, 0.6, yeah.
Out of all the available, that's
awesome.
So,
sorry.
Connecting that back into like HB 6667.
Right.
I think I maybe one too many sixes in there. Anyways, with our registration, that is arguably May 1st. I keep hearing different dates out here.
It's May 1st is they're saying the cutoff, but I don't know. There's no time. So I don't know if it's midnight or like 11:59 p.m.
I also heard May 24th today.
Oh, see, no, I haven't heard that one
June
yet.
1st. Conservatively, let's say May 1st for the argument. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what our numbers are going to be.
Well, like we've talked, after Sandy Hook, they had the registration period, and I believe the numbers were around 15%. I may be slightly wrong, but it was a low turnout for registration. So it will be interesting to see this time, for a few different reasons. And I think some of it plays into new gun owners.
Yep.
I think that's going to play a big role. Are they going to, the older gun owners tend to be like, I'm not so sure about that. New gun owners, obviously, want to do what is told from the state. They haven't been through the hoops that the state puts us through as often. But like Derek, you and I were talking, I also think they've sweetened the deal a little bit with this registration period. In allowing, not saying, okay, it has to stay in Connecticut compliance in order for you to do this, or if you have a strip lower, you can register it as an assault weapon, but you can't build it. They've changed all that.
Yeah.
So it kind of allows you to do things with your other, like make a rifle or put a stock on it that you wouldn't have been able to do prior to the registration.
Yeah, we'll follow federal compliance on it.
Correct.
That's the better way of saying it.
Right. So it kind of opens some doors. So I think this is going to be interesting. I do want to see the numbers on this for sure.
Well, Illinois is going to set a standard with this non-compliance, because then what is the state going to do?
Correct.
Do you know if they have a registration system, registration in quotes there, like we do with like the DPS 3C forms?
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know how they
because
do it
like our state, to be honest, knows what you have for the most part, with random exception. They do.
If I remember, I have a friend that lives in Cook County, and I believe, because we had talked about it, but it was a few years ago. So, I mean, I can find out down the line, and we can roll back to it. But I believe they do. It may not be the exact same thing, but they do have a way of seeing who has what, and they have that list they're not really supposed to have, like Connecticut does.
Well, yeah.
The registrations that aren't really legal.
Right. But it's just going to be interesting to see what they're going to do, because you have county sheriffs who are, out front saying we're not going to enforce any part of this assault weapons ban. And, is the state police now going to go into these counties? Are the sheriffs going to arrest the state police? How's this going to work? It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Or, the state won't ignore it. Because Pritzker is a bit of a baby. He wields his leadership like, a kid who just found, no pun intended, his father's gun.
Yeah.
That's exactly how he kind of throws his authority around. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because it's going to set the tone for the whole country.
Yep.
Here in Connecticut with our registration, New York, if they,
if he can't do anything about it, and if he doubles down and still loses, it's going to just show that, is it worth putting all that effort in and making you kind of look like you're not able to do what you're telling us you're going to do?
Exactly.
No, that'll be interesting for sure. Huh.
I did try to do a quick Google search, couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look up registration, it comes up with the assault weapon registration for them. So,
well, because it's not called a registration, it's
a database.
Yes,
but they don't even call it that. We just call it the form number.
Right.
So,
yeah. But yet it's funny because SLFU here is your gun registered? Did you fill out a DP3? Did you do registration form? When they bought that, was it registered to them? And I'm like,
I don't know.
I didn't think we could do registrations and have lists. Yeah. But okay.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. See, I mean, if those numbers are less than 1%, well, conservatives say that in general. And I think some of our numbers are going to be a little skewed, because I've had people come in and buy the Cross Armory like fixed mag kits because they don't want to register it with the state, which, being blunt and honest, I think is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Because the state already knows you have it. So now you're putting it into a fixed mag. All right, well, you could have just bought that lower now and done the same thing.
Right.
So you're kind of, you panic bought these things. And then for what reason at that point, if you're not going to go and keep it and register as an assault weapon?
I think the thought process, at least from what I hear from people, was, they don't want to register it and be on a list. Now in Connecticut, because I was me being me, and talking to SLFU, who, don't get me wrong, I like the people up there. I'm actually very good friends with a couple of them, so I can have these conversations. But I had said, don't you already have a list of all the guns that are owned? Like, why do we have to have an assault weapons list too? And the answer I got, which I found was very funny, was, no, that's a different list. I said, what? I said, because, like, huh? And he goes,
how many lists do we have here?
Yeah.
He goes, no, the assault weapons is a completely separate list. I'm like, but you already have the gun in your system. Like, can't you just put like an AW next to it?
Yeah, a little asterisk.
Yeah. And they're like, no, that's a whole separate list.
So I wonder how secure these lists are too. So, like, I mean, I'm sure that's people's concerns. Like, is this in a database or are we on like a fucking flash drive here? Like, is this, you know, is this protected by the state police or is it protected by Bob? You know?
Yeah. I would assume it's protected. And this is an assumption. I would assume it's protected by the state/state police, only because this is the system that the state police has been hooked into. And it's also the system that the locals can purchase so that they also have access to it. So I don't think it would be done on just some little separate flash drive or separate little server. I think it's done on the states, you know, and it's protected that way. That would be my guess. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's my guess.
Yeah. Be interesting. Because I'm sure that's some people's concerns.
Oh, absolutely.
But then also, what else is going on out there? You know, there's a lawyer. He's basically suing the state of Chicago. The state of Illinois over this assault weapons ban.
Nice.
He took to Facebook and said, and basically you can find it on his page, it's Thomas DeVore. And he stated that the Pritzker has in place an emergency declaration. Basically what he's waiting for is the next mass shooting to then, as a public health initiative, force people to turn in all banned weapons, also all assault style weapons, to have the people then turn them in under this public health declaration. And that's why they're so upset they got such a low turnout for people registering, because now they can only basically go after 0.6% of the people out there.
But see, people learned even after Katrina.
Yes.
When they were told to hand in their guns after Katrina, and it caused a lot of problems. There are people all around the country watched that.
Yes.
And said, once you start letting them know exactly what you have, it's very easy for them to take it away. And during Katrina, I got to tell you, if I was out there, I wouldn't want to be out there without my guns.
Yeah, no.
Don't tell me we're in a military state and you have to hand in your guns. The military state means I need to protect myself.
Yeah.
Huh.
So our state and other states, they like to watch what other states do.
Absolutely.
Right. So like California will watch what Massachusetts does, right? We'll watch what Mass does. New York, New Jersey,
California,
Washington, Illinois, obviously. One of the ones that I think worries me here is the ammo tax in general.
Yes.
So if you guys don't know, it has been brought up at least I think 4 sessions that there's been an ammo tax proposed bill. Yeah. At one point, I think in the beginning it was like 50%, then it was like 35%, and then 25%. And if you did the math out on this last one, it averaged out to be like 18 to 20% because they did it per bullet.
Per bullet based on caliber.
Based on caliber, yeah. Which was just interesting math too.
Common Core.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So New York has this tax in place, and they also have a background check requirement every time to buy ammo, which costs money, and that the state had to develop their own background check system because they were using NICS and they're not supposed to.
Can you imagine Connecticut with the system we have in place trying to do it for every ammo purchase too?
But like, am I getting an authorization number? Am I getting just a yes or no?
It's basically yes. It's an
authorization. So I have to fill out a form too. They bought 1,000 rounds of 9mm. But this is it's a depletable resource, right? It's just like gasoline. You use it and then it's gone, right? Like the gun reusable for many of thousands of rounds, unless things break or you abuse the, crap out of the gun, then that gun's going to be there for a significant amount of time. That ammo could be gone in 3 minutes later.
Well, the
right?
problem
Go to the
is
range and shoot.
The problem is those is in Connecticut. Okay. Now I know other states have done it differently with just a set price tag on it. But in Connecticut, the ones making the laws don't understand, number one, really what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But number two, they also don't understand the actual execution of what they're asking to have done. So then special licensing gets stuck trying to implement these laws that they put in place that they have not funded for more help and for better equipment, and say, just get it done. Yeah. Which puts it into a huge pickle, because you have the powers that be pissed off and want this done, and yay, we won, and now we're going to get it done. And then you have us in general, on just a civilian side, just grumpy that we have to pay it. Like, say it went through, that we have to pay it. And then you have the dealer, the gun store, selling such, because they start doing that crap. We're not getting anything online.
It's going to, okay.
And so now
it's going to annoy the crap out of me, though. I already have to pay sales tax every month.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, because like I collect your money and it goes into my regular account, and then I have to run a report and pay pay the sales tax. Like, this money, it's sitting in my account. So like, I now know, years in business, I know like my account number is a little inflated on what it is for what I purchase, because if I've done $100,000 in sales in a month, which I don't normally do, guys, we're not that big yet, but
goals,
what's the number on that? $6,000 is going to be sales tax in my account.
A little bit more, because it's 6.35. So you're actually, it's a little bit more, like maybe
at a minimum of that. And so if my account's sitting at, $10,000, because I buy inventory, right? Money's going in and out, sitting on the shelves over here. Then I only have that. Now we add ammo tax onto that. Like, that is going to be utterly annoying for the small business owner that has to figure out this math. And maybe, hopefully, like, your POS system can do this for you and figure it out.
Well, and we already have money when we buy any kind of firearm related. There's already a tax put onto that's built in for Pittman Robinson Fund. So it's already being taxed. Now,
what?
Pittman Robinson. It's what funds.
Is that part of the 11% excise tax?
I think it might be.
So if you guys don't know what the excise tax is, when you manufacture something, that's an 11% excise tax on the manufacturer, which is what happened with others, why some others were inflated, because they would take the cost of a pistol, an AR pistol, they would pin and weld or change out the barrel to make it to get it over that 12 inches, right? And so now that gun costs the dealer $700. And now you have to pay an 11% excise tax on that. So that's another $77 on that. And then they have to make their markup. So something that looked really similar online that was a regular AR, now when we were able to build them into others, you added another $100 onto it at a minimum, because of the remanufacturing aspect. So I don't know what you're talking about, though.
I'll show you after the podcast. I'll pull it up. It's a fund that, it's sort of like a forestry fund, but it's not. It's for firearms. Okay. And it goes to fund certain aspects. I believe you can get grants from it to help with de-leading at ranges. But it goes back into the firearms industry in that way.
How's that collected?
It's within the sale price. So when you're buying it, you're already paying it.
So from like a manufacturing aspect? Like Glock adds an extra $1 or $2?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And then, but it somehow stays within each state. So Connecticut already collects X amount off of that, because I have to look in. I'm not prepared for that stuff.
We'll visit that in a future episode.
We will. And I'll get all the information, because I used to be very well versed in it, and I've kind of stepped away from it a little bit. But what I was getting at is that's already part of what we pay in ammo. That's already an upcharge included in your ammo cost. So you're already paying that. Now they want the tax. You go throughout, like I said, and then you get the dealership involved. So the FFL involved in the sale who's going to be unhappy. And then you're going to have SLFU. Now, we all know how SLFU feels right now with the registration and with the way they're doing guns and adding in this and adding in that. And they're overworked and underpaid for what they do. Okay. And now you're going to ask them to do this too. Mm-hmm. Isn't that going to be fun? I don't see it being fun for anybody.
No. I think they've had decent turnover there too. Because I mean, you hear some of the regular names when you call up, or like the regular voices, I should say.
Yes.
And then I'm hearing new voices. And to be fair, I don't call that much anymore, right? My employees do that. But like on Monday and Tuesday, when I'm here by myself, like I call and then I'm like, I haven't heard that voice before. Like, that doesn't sound familiar at all.
Right after COVID, or in the middle of COVID, they had a huge drop in people through retirement. So I think I want to say like 5 or 6 retired, which is pretty big considering the amount of staff that they have. And then they brought in some others, and it's been kind of a rollover. All right. And I think that happens a lot anyway, just with the department itself.
When I first opened in, end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I would hear the same people all the time.
Well, you had Joanne.
Kathy
retired.
Joanne retired?
Joanne, I think, retired.
We'll say retired.
Yes. Misa is no longer up there.
Okay, yeah.
She left. Then you've had, just recently there was Alona, and she didn't work out long time. She was there for, I don't know, 6 months or so, but she didn't last all that long. Now you've got some new ones. You've got Morgan and you've got Jen, who are sweethearts.
Yeah, I've talked to Morgan before.
Rhett is up there. He's been there for a while. Joe is fairly new, but he seems to be doing really good. He's another guy that kind of understands our side really well. It used to be when I called, there was very few people that were gun people or even understood the concept of a gun. Most of them were completely anti-gun, which I always found very interesting in your special licensing and firearms unit, that we have anti-gun minded people. Especially during COVID, when they go, you can't possibly have that many people in your room. I'm like, I could send you a picture if you give me a cell phone.
Then I'm going to call that number for you to run my background check.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember the extra cell phone numbers they gave out?
Yep. That was for the troopers.
Fun fact with that. And this is years ago now, so I'm going to say it. They wouldn't pick up certain people's numbers because they started being rude to them.
Yep.
And they would just boop.
They're still doing it, even without the cell phones.
Yeah.
They have caller ID, and there is one person particular up there that certain phone numbers they will not pick up for.
Yeah, the troopers, I called them almost all the time, and they were super nice.
They're the bomb.
And like always, and they were like injured troopers or something. They weren't like pulled off from like the normal thing. They had to do desk duty because one of them was injured. Yep. I remember talking to him about it because that's when the whole background check system went to absolute mess.
I tease them all the time. I'm like, that's SLFU is like where broken troopers go. If you're broken or you're a bad trooper, like you're in trouble, they send you to SLFU. And the troopers all laugh. They go, yes, we hope our time is just short here.
Well, one of them, like, I guess, and I remember this specifically, he got shot, whatever it was. And like, he was fine, right? But he wasn't cleared to go back to duty yet. And he's like, yeah, the thing I'm most in danger from is a paper cut.
Yeah.
Or like a stapler poking my finger.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess so. All right. Getting back on topic here.
So back to the ammo tax though, Derek, and you've probably watched other states do this. And it is very common that they continue to propose over and over, correct?
Yes. Yeah. The one in Connecticut's been around for a while. Not new.
Well, so the new session starts
February.
A month?
Yeah, in a couple of weeks.
A week?
Okay.
February's in a week.
Oh my God.
Sorry, when this will be airing, it'll be February already.
That's true. Sorry, guys.
We record about a week in advance here, guys. And so I fully expect, even though this is a budget session,
and it's a short session,
which is
good.
so was last year, or no, not last
No.
year, the year before, when they tried to ban others the first time. That was a short session, and it failed then, obviously,
Oh,
and
you're
then got passed
referring-
last year.
Are you referring to Governor's Bill?
Yeah.
Number 16?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
think it
f-
was 16.
The
yeah.
first year that
Yeah.
got it, everybody just
So you're really good with like the numbers and that. And I just remember the amount of sales.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. It is, and I hate the gun control,
Mhm.
but the panic buying is so entertaining in the store.
Yeah.
Because I go from like, oh yeah, it's a slow Tuesday to I just did, $15,000 in sales in 6 hours.
You find that entertaining?
Yeah. I love the chaos.
Oh no.
I love the chaos.
I just look at people and I'm like, okay, and you're going to come trade this in 6 months because it's not going to work out, and or you're going to get scared because they actually passed the bill, or what do you need 15 lowers for? Like, and I'm not one to ever. I'm not everyone.
Transfer 12 one time,
but I'm not one to say how many do you need, because, like, don't look at my safe, okay? But the thing is, like, you need them all that day. Like,
they're there.
I'm one of those people that, like, I consistently buy, so I don't have to buy 12 at a time.
Like when the shitstorm happened last time, I bought 2 more because that was my next, like, those 2 calibers I was building was my last 2 builds.
Yeah.
And so like I grabbed those 2 one day during the chaos. I already had most of the other stuff.
So you're part of the chaos.
Yeah, of my own chaos.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I'm doing paperwork for you guys, and I'm just like.
And as far as the listeners go, I am not picking on anybody, so please don't take that the wrong way. I
want all the hate comments, guys. All of them.
Yeah, directed directly at
me. Right at Michelle. How dare you say that? So, what percentage do you think that we're gonna? What percentage of chance do you think that we're gonna have an ammo tax proposed this session?
90%.
90.
Yeah, easily.
I like the 90% range.
All right.
Maybe the idiots take a session off.
They might expand it into a firearm tax on top. That's like California did.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So is that an overall?
It's
anything to do with firearms?
The
California tax.
Yes, it's
a double sales tax.
It's a double sales. Right? Yes, there's a.
And they already have. They have about I think it's an 8%, 9% tax.
So you have your state tax, then you're going to have this additional tax on top.
So, okay, you have these taxes, okay? As much as everybody goes, no, but it passes.
Mm-hmm.
Is California, because Connecticut will put it in a general fund. Okay, they won't fund special licensing and make it a better unit to work better. So, is California putting it directly into?
Okay, so
California's 7.25% sales tax, depending on the jurisdiction. Just like New York has a different tax, it can be up to 10.25%. Right?
Oh. So go ahead.
No, but as you were saying, because that's a great point. No, Connecticut. We've seen Connecticut in their handling of money. What was that? The transportation lockbox is a perfect example of them not doing what they said they're going to do.
But they're all getting raises.
But they're getting raises. Hey, that's the one time you see partisanship thrown out the door. Is when it comes time for us to get more money. 100% yes. But
it's an 11% sales state tax on firearms and ammo
on top of the other.
On top of the regular tax. So that's a 20%.
Yeah.
Almost.
Holy crap! Okay, but
so
go ahead,
$500 gun adds $100 in tax. That's your quick math for you guys.
But basically, as you were saying, when it comes to usage of the money that they collect in these taxes, now you have to go back once again to Illinois. And they did this 2 years ago. They had an ammo and firearm tax, but the Illinois Supreme Court shot it down.
Good.
Saying because you're not using the money for anything that would be firearms related, like gun violence prevention.
Yes.
So now go back and look at the California law, and probably what they'll try to pull here is that you're going to notice language, because California has a language that the money collected is supposed to go towards reducing gun violence. That's how they're going to get around the potential for a lawsuit.
So it would be funding the Sandy Hook Promise
or along
all
those
the
lines.
Anti-gun group, CAGV.
Yeah. And so they can come up with more bills, and they can be more of a voice.
Prior to this show, we're talking about who would we want on the show, right? I think it'd be interesting to get a CAGV guy on here. I think it would be.
It'd be
Because I could have
I can have a conversation.
I could have a conversation with them. Not a politician, but I could have a conversation with them.
I don't know if
I would
they
totally rip them apart.
You got to be careful
No.
though, if you're going to invite. No, if you're
I
going to
would be
invite
no.
them
I'm
on.
professional. Right, guys, I'm professional. Okay, most of the time. I would be professional.
No, and I think it would be good to get their viewpoint. Like when I do testimony, when I've gone up to Hartford and done testimony, I can sit there literally from 7:00 in the morning until 3 a.m. And people go, "How can you do that over and over?"
You don't go to the bathroom? You just sit there?
I go and I eat, I go smoke. But no, so you sit there, you listen, and some people are like, when the other side is speaking, they get really angry. And I'm one where I truly I may not agree. Okay, I definitely don't agree. All right. Let's put that out there.
Don't.
But I do want to understand their logic and how they get where they're coming from and why do they feel this is so important. And I've come to the conclusion in listening, and it's not everybody. Most of it's uneducated.
Yep.
Okay. It's only going with what's in the media and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some that just truly want them gone, and they are lying. They know the facts. They know gun safety. They don't, even what they go up and they say under testimony. And I've asked them and I've gotten the direct answer. No, we lied because we want this passed. That to me, I have a hard time with, but I am willing to have a conversation with anyone because I think even if we don't agree, we may find some common ground. Like every gun owner I know wants to stop gun violence.
Absolutely.
We don't want gun violence. And we're looking at it from two separate points of view. But if you talk, and with most of them, I'll give you probably not, but there may be one or two that you may be able to find common ground and find something that may work. And if you can spread that in through, it may spread across the lines. My husband would tell me I'm dreaming. But I would like to hope, that it's not, we're so divided and that's part of our problem. Yes. I truly believe that. Josh just is going to sit there and smirk at me.
I was told when you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Yeah, I mean, we are divided. But in one side follows this thing called the Constitution, and one side would burn it if they had the chance.
Correct. Because they don't understand without the second you lose every other right, or you have the possibility of losing every other right in that Bill of Rights.
Again, I use Canada as my example all the time. They got the guns taken away now, and now you can be imprisoned for speech, for offensive speech. Like we have the freedom of speech, and you don't have the freedom of consequences. You
Correct.
have consequences to your speech.
Correct.
Right? But you're not going, assuming it doesn't cause a crime or violence, you're not going to be jailed for that.
Correct.
And that's a huge thing that other countries don't have. And the closest one is right above us. It's a 7-hour drive there. I think, right? Buffalo's like 6 hours, yeah. So like 7 right there, Depends on how much snow's coming.
It's close enough. But yeah, it's a car ride. It's not a day trip. It's
like
not,
I have to go over an ocean.
Correct. It's easy enough. Hop, skip, and a jump to a point. No, there's a lot. Look at Venezuela. Look at all of these different countries and people.
Yeah, they took the guns.
Then they took the food. They took everything.
North Korea.
Yeah, I don't.
China.
That's what I don't get. Is I don't get how people can't see
the domino effect,
the bigger picture here. We want to focus. Everything wants to focus on the gun. When somebody goes out and runs somebody over with a car because they're pissed off, They don't go after the car. They charge the driver, and the driver ran that guy over, and the driver was a horrible person. But if it's gun related in any way, shape, or form, it's the gun's fault.
And now they're going after the manufacturers, which is going to segue into our next part here. I just learned this prior to the show. Mexico is allowed to sue the U.S. gun manufacturers for gun violence in Mexico. Is that right?
That's the deal. That is exactly what's going on.
Expand on that.
Yes. So this is a lawsuit that was filed in 2021.
Okay.
And then the following year, a lower court judge said, "This is ridiculous. I'm throwing this out." Now, the First Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston basically said, no, this is all good. So Mexico can sue these gun manufacturers for, they're literally, the argument coming from Mexico is gun manufacturers are aiding and abetting in the illegal trafficking of firearms into the country. They're literally saying that the gun deal, makers are responsible for people trafficking guns into the country. And that's a dangerous slope right there.
Yeah, because bet you the records don't show that.
Right. They're going to have to prove that obviously in court.
So I'm guessing if
why was it the First Circuit Court of Appeals, first of all?
Why did they get it?
Why was it in the First Circuit?
I have no idea why.
It's not close to Mexico.
Right. They like,
that's up here. Mexico is down here.
Yeah. They probably filed it, in a district where they would have a better advantage.
Yeah.
Through the gun because they're suing the gun manufacturers. So.
But my guess is it's going to be appealed again.
Yes.
I mean, there's no way this is just a done deal yet, correct?
No. This is going to go back and forth, probably like a ping pong ball for a minute.
Like anything else right now.
Else, yeah.
Okay.
So to be clear for you guys for law stuff or FFL stuff, to sell a gun, if you're a manufacturer in the U.S. and to sell a gun into another country, you have to be an importer or exporter, which is a separate FFL license.
And lots of money.
And more money to do that, because I'm sure there's taxes for importing and exporting as well. That's these companies have it, right? Especially like knowing how the system works and like, what is it? Savage, right? Mm-hmm. Savage, some of their stuff comes from Canada.
Yes.
Right. So that's the manufacturer, then it's imported, there's a tax on that, and then they sell it through Savage Arms.
Well, and all of them need to keep A&D books the same as your regular gun store.
Yeah.
So it's not like you just ship it out.
Yeah. So how are these guns getting into Mexico is my question. And my two answers to that question are mass straw purchases and illegally transferring guns into Mexico.
Yeah.
Which is
we're
not
really
the
good
manufacturer doing it.
We're not really good. We're decent at stopping, I don't know, I would say some smuggling into the US, but out of the US,
well,
I don't know.
We do that. Look at Fast and Furious. Our government does that.
And the second way is to sell the gun to something in Mexico. I was trying to look up quickly how to buy a gun in Mexico.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mexico only has one gun store.
The whole entire country?
Yeah, I believe they only have one.
How do the cartel get so many?
But
our manufacturers.
As illegally as possible, obviously.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to buy it from Mexico's only authorized firearm shop, the DCAM, or buy it from someone. You can purchase a permit at the DCAM, which means a trip to Mexico City and some paperwork.
Mexico actually has permits?
That's the only authorized firearm dealer.
Yeah.
How much did they pay the government? And I wonder what their A&D books look like. Pablo Escobar. We have set laws here, right? Yeah. And we have the tracing ability. That's a firearm trace actually is what the ATF can do.
Yep.
That we have to comply within 24 hours of the request, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they get really grumpy if it's more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
And so I've done, I think, 5 or 6, which is really low. Michelle just looks sideways there. Michelle's done more for the place that she works at.
Yeah. Sometimes in a week.
Yeah. Well, that just tells you my customer base is responsible. They're locking up their firearms properly.
I can't
because
say
I've educated them well.
I can't say what they are right now because I don't do it anymore. But when I was doing it,
A very cheaper brand of firearms.
yes, yes,
Happens.
consistently.
I was actually out of those like 5 or 6, half of them were that from me.
Mhm.
And then I stopped selling them for a little bit, and yeah, stopped for a little bit. Hey, $100 profit's $100 profit.
Yeah.
Right? Like background checks approved. Lock up your stuff. You have the locking devices. You're told what to do.
Yep.
And when you leave it in your car because you're less than intelligent,
Oh,
that's
boy.
not my problem. That's legally your problem now.
Yes.
And probably a charge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this legislative session should be, it's going to be interesting. I don't know.
I don't know what I mean, number one, because
coming
it's
off
a
of
short
victory.
system,
Yeah.
right? And because it's a short session, a short session is typically a financial session. All right. So, like we were talking about, I expect to see an ammo tax. Okay, because that's financially impactful. But they came off a very large win last year. So,
do they go with a high or do they keep pushing through?
Well, we
I
know
think
where
they
our
keep
super
going.
majority is, and have they ever just went, oh wait, we did good, we'll give it a break? No. So I expect things to come through. I don't know how much will actually stick to the wall, if that makes any sense.
Right.
But I really can't even, like, some years I can look at it and go, all right, they're going to come up with this, they're going to come up with this, they're going to come up with this. I can't even off the top of my head, besides an ammo tax, even think to where they would begin. I mean, there's a lot of options still.
Sure. But they're basically raw. They know the public's raw from what they did last,
Correct.
with HB 6667. So they will hold off and wait for the next tragedy somewhere.
I think they're going to propose it. I think it'll die in committee. And then I think they're going to push it even harder the next year.
Right, but I don't know what they're going to push for. They've now banned
ammo
so
tax.
much. Yes, but there's going to be there's more.
Okay.
Oh wait, there's more.
Yeah.
They never just do one. You can't have just
what else
one.
are you going after? Anything semi-automatic?
That would be the next move.
Or handgun registration.
Or magazine. Anything fed with a magazine.
Period. That's come up actually in committee. But I don't know that they'll come that hard unless they want to test the waters. And like we were talking about, they propose it, they get it kicked down. Propose it, kicked down. So unless they want to start that process to get it circled around and people talking about it so that it can pass.
Well, what they tried last year, the loaded chamber indicator, micro stamping.
But that's not even feasible. Micro stamping, it's not feasible. So again, they want to, and they have to.
I mean, that was passed in California a decade plus ago, and they still haven't implemented it because you can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Technology doesn't technically, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist for it.
And at this
point,
point,
if you guys don't know what micro stamping is, because we have to think about the person here, right?
Yes.
Watching us. Micro stamping is a serial number on the firing pin that stamps the primer with a unique 8-digit code. But the technology isn't there, and it makes, I mean, from what I've done research wise, it makes the firing pin super frail and they break. And then you have to go buy a new one.
And how do you come up with a
and
unique number with that?
You have to register them. And like, I'm sorry, am I changing that out? Because like last time I tried to change my Glock plate, a little spring in the back went to space. So that was like 6 years ago, guys. I've not owned the store that long. I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But I mean, how many people are going to try to do it themselves? And does it stop anyone from changing it back?
Yeah.
Like,
firing pins are not registered items. You can go get a firing pin anywhere.
It's going to be another one of those
everywhere.
where only if you're caught. So it's a, there's a word for it and I'm blanking on it, but it's a penalty. It's a reactive. So it's only if you're caught with it. It's not a proactive law. Which we do a lot of those in Connecticut because we don't have the manpower or the ability at this time to do what they ultimately would like to do.
Right.
So we do it on I don't want to say passive, but it is. I mean, if you screw up, they're going to nail you to the wall.
Right.
But we aren't necessarily going to come to your door and nail you to the wall.
Well,
Neither of those are good options.
It's just like the safe storage law.
Yeah.
It's not a proactive law. That's a reactive. We
Correct.
can get you after the fact.
Correct.
Because, you can't go door to door looking, where are your guns and how are you keeping them? And
No,
it's not going to
absolutely.
work.
That's when I shut the door in your face.
You're
and tell
not
them to get
allowed
a
in my
warrant.
house. I'm still pissed off about that, to be totally honest with you. It's my house. If I lock my door, it's a locked container. Since when does the government tell me how I need to keep my house? I used to laugh years ago when they started passing taxes the way that they were doing, and they started coming after gun laws. And jokingly, I said, when are they going to start taxing me on toilet paper? I'm using too many squares. And then we had COVID.
Mhm.
And I went, oh my God, wait for it. And, you look at it and they just keep coming after, you can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. And a lot of it doesn't pertain to the government. Like it's just control at this point. And I have a real hard time with being controlled. It makes me want to buck the system so hard. Choices and times and places, and know the consequences. That's all I can say.
We have to be very careful, especially here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Because Lamont, I always had a theory that I've put out a few times. I'm not sure how to even peg Lamont at this point. I don't know if he's a utopiast who believes that no guns means no crime, or is just a straight authoritarian who believes that only the elitists should have guns.
He's a gun owner. You know that, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to figure.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
But you have to kind of.
Well, so is Kamala.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Not for you, but for me, or however that saying actually goes.
No, I believe I think it's the second one. I think he's an authoritarian. I don't think he's that living in the clouds. I don't think he truly believes if he bans them, they'll be gone.
Right.
I think there's a lot of CAGV people that believe that first utopian thing.
Absolutely, yes.
Especially the keyboard warriors.
Yes. But it goes to show when they're doing session, okay, and they're passing these bills that are hitting law-abiding citizens, the low-hanging fruit, okay, because criminals by definition aren't going to follow any of these laws. Let's just put that out there. But when amendments are being proposed to make the person who is doing the crime pay a higher penalty, and they consistently say, oh, no, that should be a wake-up call to a lot of people. I don't care where you vote, what letter you have behind your name on your voting registration. That period should be something that makes you sit back and go, why aren't we making the penalty stronger for people, but we're hurting the law-abiding citizens? I mean, that's to me, that's...
Well, I think when you tell that to somebody, they're like, oh yeah, that's bad.
But
they don't pay attention.
No, they go, oh my God, I didn't know that. And then they go and vote again for the same person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, how many questions on CCDO's Facebook group and CT Open Carry and CT2A Freedom Talks or whatever it's called ask the same questions all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, guys, this has been happening since June. This was passed in June, which means it was happening months before that. And you still don't know what's going on? You're the problem.
10 years later, people didn't know that their 10-round mag was banned and they should have registered them.
Yep, I get those people that still come into the store.
So
it amazes me how many people's heads are in the clouds.
I've gotten to the point where I'm like, you're in Connecticut, which means not only do you have to follow gun laws, you have to be vigilant on gun laws if you live in this state, because they're convoluted, number one. And they're constantly coming and constantly changing. So you have to stay up to date. And they go, oh, you get people who are, well, I'm 70 and how would I know that? The same way I know it. Well, I'm new to this. I didn't know any of this. You got to learn. If you're going to carry a gun in Connecticut, you're setting yourself up to be doing something inadvertently that is going to put a felony on your forehead.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
And it baffles me.
Because what's going to happen after whenever the date is, April, May, with this new
Yeah.
registration
Mhm.
period, I guarantee there's going to be a ton of people who are going to have these others, and they're going to go out to the range, and somebody's going to say, "Did you register that?" And they're going to look at them and go, "What?" Yeah, I registered when I
Mhm.
bought it. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm asking you.
Uh-huh.
It happened with SB 1160.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
People after the fact were saying, "Can I register my AR now?" It's like, no, you had to get that done
You missed
2013.
it.
You know,
And this one they left with 2014. It was only a short window.
yes,
This one they've left it open for months.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, there's so much talk about it. You've got to be like just not paying attention if you're not catching this. And I
Let's
mean,
talk about it in our work environments.
yes,
If you don't go to a store that often, or you just run into a store to buy ammo and leave, do you know?
yeah,
I mean, this is the design behind the podcast, right? It's to inform you guys
right,
on
right.
laws and what to do, right? 2 episodes ago, or 3 episodes ago, whenever it was, we did the whole 414C and how to fill that out, what to put in those registration boxes, where to find this information. And then I see the exact question on CT Open Carry today.
Yes.
And I'm like, do a little, and I cross post these, right? We throw them up there. We throw them up, everywhere. Look for the title, how to read, like 414C, search that.
Yep.
I mean, ask questions. At least they're asking questions, but.
And we have helped a lot, I will tell you, because
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of comments from people saying, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for doing that." Or they're reaching out going, "How do I do that? Like, where do I find the form?" Even though it was there, but they're asking. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, cool. And they're like, "Well, do I have to?" Well, by law, yes. I can't tell you no, because like by law, it says you have to do this. And they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, should I?" Again, by law, it tells you have to do this. What you choose to do is you. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
You're an adult. You make your own decisions.
But again, back to you with, if they only go in once in a while, most people who own a gun have a friend who owns a gun, or go to the range together, or they work together. You may not be in gun groups. You may not be hanging out in a gun store. You may not be hanging out with training, and doing training left, right, and center, and people who know what they're doing as far as, doing the classes and know what the laws are. But along an 8-month period, you had to have talked to somebody who had another gun that possibly would know. I mean, unless there's a whole corner of people that have a gun, don't go shooting very often, don't buy, which I know it happens. Yep. Don't buy ammo, don't talk to their friends about guns. They just go home and that's a private thing. And some people are still like that. And I do understand that. But the amount, do we really have that many? Because right about now in Connecticut, gun owners should be standing together, shoulder to shoulder, screaming from the rooftops.
How many people showed up for the open carry rally? There's a problem.
I know.
All right.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
So, anything else you want to add, Derek? If not, we're going to close up this episode.
Oh.
I think there's a very good serious moment at the end.
Yeah, right. No, but it's there is no unity in the gun community.
There's a lot of divide.
It's people are more interested in other things beyond their individual rights.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're more focused on those things. Those things come first. If you ask most people, what is your main issue going to the ballot? What's the main issue on your mind when you go? And they'll tell you some abstract thing that has nothing to do with basically your day-to-day living and your freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, freedom first. Mm-hmm. When I vote freedom first. Who is going to allow me to be my, an individual with my individual freedoms, and who is trying to take that away, or curtail it, or reduce it? And that's where my vote will always go that direction.
Well, because if you have freedom, I tell people this all the time, if you have freedom, everything else to me will fall into place, because then you're free to do what you have to do. If you expect, and unfortunately, with the way classes are being indoctrinated and everything else today, it's all regurgitated, and you are almost droned into your brain that the government is here to help you. And when I hear that term, I just want to giggle.
Didn't Ronald Reagan say, like,
Yeah.
those are the scariest words? I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yes, I think so. But I've always said it. There's the government, and people think the government is like, ooh, the government's the government. It's like, you people don't realize you're the government. You paid to have a government. Your taxes pay for your government. You are the government. The government buildings are your buildings. And they go, no. Like, did you pay taxes?
Because if not, the government's going to come and take you.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're going to feed them. Don't worry about that.
All right. So, Derek, where again, we'll recap your podcast and everything. So, where can people find you? What's the name, platforms, all that stuff?
So, main thing is going to be Connecticut Gun Bench, which is pretty much across the board. So you can find it on YouTube, Rumble. I'm also on Twitter.
Okay.
Doing some stuff there.
Twitter's a little more free nowadays.
Yeah, it's a little more free. You can say
I haven't
certain things.
Yeah, I haven't gotten yelled at on Twitter yet.
Yeah.
Facebook though.
YouTube can be tricky, especially when you're talking about gun
Yeah.
issues. They really scrutinize you to death.
Yeah. Rumble doesn't though.
Rumble does not. Rumble does not.
Okay. All right. And then also partially on Facebook too, right?
Partially on Facebook.
All right.
But that's under the company name.
So it's more to push.
So
Gotcha.
It's more to push people to you.
To bring it to the YouTube.
Yep.
Keep people informed.
Also do pistol permit classes?
Yeah, so that's the business that my business of PAN Firearms.
Okay.
So that's where you'd find that in Twitter and Facebook.
Perfect.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having
your
me.
insight on other states. We've been focusing on Connecticut, but it's definitely
it all wraps back.
Yeah, it all connects.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out more information on other states and the stuff that Derek goes to, Connecticut Gun Bench, right? Check him out on YouTube, Rumble, and then Twitter, Facebook for PAN Firearms.
Yeah, PAN Firearms LLC.
LLC. There you go. All right. Well, Derek, thank you for coming on.
And thanks for having me.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michelle.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.